All right, so you've sent over some fascinating stuff for us to dive into today. Articles about communication skills, some vocabulary exercises, even notes from conversations you've had with native English speakers. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it would give us a good, well-rounded perspective.
It does. And it all kind of points to this idea of, well, using synonyms and antonyms effectively. So that's going to be our focus for this deep dive. You know, as an English learner, how can you use these tools to, well, just express yourself better, with more accuracy and variety?
Yeah. I think that's something a lot of English learners really want to get better at, isn't it?
Absolutely. They want to sound more, fluent, more sophisticated. And synonyms and antonyms, they're really the key to unlocking that.
Definitely.
So let's start, from the beginning. What exactly are synonyms?
So synonyms, they're basically words that have the same or almost the same meaning. Like you see them in vocabulary lists a lot. Right?
Yep.
And they're great for avoiding repetition and just, making your English sound more interesting.
Right. Like instead of saying happy all the time, you could say joyful or content. Right.
Exactly. Those are perfect examples. They all mean basically happy, but there are these like subtle differences. Joyful is maybe more, more intense. Content is more like peaceful.
Right. So you might say, I'm joyful if something amazing happened, but you'd say, I'm content if you're just generally feeling good about things.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes using synonyms so powerful. You can be so much more specific and accurate with your language.
It's about choosing the perfect word for the situation, painting a picture with your words.
That's a great way to put it.
So synonyms are all about expanding your vocabulary and using words with similar meanings. And what about antonyms? Where do those fit in?
Antonyms, well, they're kind of the opposite of synonyms. They're words that have opposite meanings.
Right, like happy and sad.
Exactly. And knowing antonyms can be super useful for a couple of reasons. First, it helps you really understand the meaning of a word by knowing its opposite. And second, antonyms are great for creating contrasts.
Right, for highlighting differences. In your notes, you mentioned an example from a conversation about the weather.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, let me see. Oh, yeah, it was a simple sentence, actually. It was hot yesterday, but today it's cold.
Right, and the contrast between hot and cold, it makes the meaning so much clearer.
It does. And it adds a bit of, drama to the sentence, too, don't you think?
For sure. It's you're instantly transported to those two different days just by those two words.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've talked about what synonyms and antonyms are, but I think it's helpful to, really look at some more examples.
Yeah, let's get specific.
Let's start with happy. Again, we've already talked about joyful and content, but there are so many others, right? Like cheerful, merry, delighted, elated.
Wow, there are a lot.
There are. And each one has a slightly different shade of meaning. Cheerful is maybe more lighthearted, while merry is associated with celebration. Delighted is when you're really pleased about something. And elated is extreme happiness.
Right, you wouldn't say I'm elated if you just found $1 on the ground, would you?
Probably not. So you see, by using these synonyms, you can really express the intensity of your happiness.
It's about being precise.
Exactly. Now, how about important? This one comes up a lot, right?
All the time.
Okay, so for important, we have significant, crucial, essential, vital. And again, they all basically mean important, but they emphasize different aspects.
Yeah, break that down for us.
Okay, so significant means it's important, but maybe not in a life or death way. This discovery is significant for our research. It's important, but it's not the end of the world if it hadn't happened.
Okay, that makes sense.
Then you have crucial, which is super important. It means it's absolutely necessary. It's crucial that we finish this project on time.
Right. If you don't finish it on time, something bad will happen.
Exactly. And then there's essential, which means it's fundamental. You can't do without it. Water is essential for life.
Right. You can't live without water.
And then there's vital, which is similar to essential, but maybe a bit more intense. It's vital that we get this message to the president.
So it's about choosing the right synonym to really emphasize the level of importance.
Exactly. It adds a lot of nuance to your language.
It does. Okay, let's try another one. How about small?
Small. Okay, good one. So we have tiny, miniature, petite, minor, insignificant.
Wow. Okay.
So tiny is like really, really small. Like I saw a tiny bug on the leaf.
Right. And then there's miniature, which is like a small version of something bigger. Like I have a miniature model of the Eiffel Tower.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then petite is often used to describe people, especially women, right? Like she has a petite frame.
Right. It suggests a kind of like delicate smallness.
And then you have minor and insignificant, which both mean small, but in terms of importance. Like it's just a minor problem. Or the difference is insignificant.
So again, it's about choosing the right synonym to really convey the specific kind of smallness you're talking about.
Precisely. And that's the beauty of synonyms.
It's like having a whole palette of colors to paint with.
I like that. Okay, one more for synonyms. How about fast?
Okay, fast. What do we have?
We have quick, swift, rapid, speedy.
So quick is kind of the general term, right? Like he's a quick learner.
Yeah. And then swift often suggests a kind of like smooth and elegant speed, like the bird flew swiftly across the sky.
Right. And rapid is more like very fast, often in a kind of a intense way. Like the company experienced rapid growth.
Yeah.
And speedy is like, well, fast, but also maybe a bit, I don't know, efficient. Like we need a speedy resolution to this problem.
Yeah, that works. So as you can see, even with a simple word like fast, there are so many nuances you can express with synonyms.
And the more synonyms you know, the more precisely you can express yourself in English.
For sure.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground with synonyms. Now let's dive into antonyms.
Sounds good.
We've already talked about hot and cold and how they create contrast. But let's look at some other examples. What about big and small?
Yeah, those are good ones. Like you could say, it was a big decision, but the consequences seem small at first.
Right. And by using those two antonyms together, you really highlight the difference in scale.
You do. And it makes the sentence more interesting too, right?
Absolutely. It adds that element of surprise. Like, wow, it was a big decision, but the consequences were small. What happened?
Exactly. It makes you want to learn more. Okay, how about fast and slow?
Ooh, good one. What comes to mind?
Well, you could say something like, I prefer a slow and steady approach to learning English rather than trying to learn everything fast.
Right. And by using those antonyms, you're contrasting two different learning styles.
You are. And it also implies that, maybe the slow and steady approach is better.
Right. It subtly suggests that.
Which is interesting because you could also say, I need to learn English fast because I'm moving to England next month. And in that case, fast has a positive connotation.
So the context really matters.
It always does. Okay, let's do one more. What about easy and difficult?
Okay. Easy and difficult. Let me think.
Take your time.
Oh, I got one. How about the test was easy for some students, but difficult for others?
Perfect. That's a great example of how antonyms can be used to show different perspectives or experiences.
Right. It highlights that what's easy for one person might be difficult for another.
And that's something to keep in mind, especially as an English learner. What's easy for a native speaker might be really challenging for you, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Everyone learns at their own pace.
Exactly.
So we've seen how using antonyms can make your English more interesting, clearer, and even more persuasive.
Yeah. They're really powerful tools.
All right, now I think it's time for a little practice.
Oh, this is always fun.
So for our listeners out there, I'm going to give you a word, and I want you to think of a synonym and an antonym for that word. Okay?
Ready to test your knowledge.
Let's do it. Okay, first word. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
What's a synonym for beautiful? Think about it for a moment. Maybe gorgeous, stunning, attractive, lovely. And what about an antonym, the opposite of beautiful? Maybe ugly, unattractive, hideous.
Good ones.
All right, next word, strong.
Strong. Okay, let's see.
For a synonym, you could say powerful, sturdy, robust. And for an antonym, maybe weak, fragile, feeble.
You got it.
Okay, last one for today, easy.
Easy.
Think of a synonym, perhaps simple, effortless, straightforward, and for an antonym, maybe difficult, hard, challenging, complex.
Nice job.
So by actively thinking about synonyms and antonyms like that, you're really reinforcing your understanding of those words.
You are. It helps move them from your passive vocabulary to your active vocabulary.
Exactly. It's like, taking them out for a spin.
I like that analogy.
So let's quickly recap what we've learned in this deep dive. Synonyms are words with similar meanings, and they're great for adding variety to your English and expressing yourself more precisely. Antonyms are words with opposite meanings, and they're great for creating contrast and highlighting differences.
And remember, both synonyms and antonyms are essential tools for any English learner who wants to, really master the language.
Absolutely. They help you understand the nuances of English and communicate more effectively.
Couldn't agree more.
So here's a challenge for you this week. Try to use at least one new synonym and one new antonym every day. Pay attention to how they make your English sound.
And don't be afraid to experiment. Try out different synonyms and antonyms and see what works best for you.
Exactly. And if you found this deep dive helpful, please subscribe to the show and share it with your friends.
We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to send us your questions or suggestions for future deep dives.
And finally, here's something to think about. As you continue learning English, pay attention to how native speakers use synonyms and antonyms. You'll be amazed at how much you can learn just by listening and observing.
It's all about immersing yourself in the language.
And the more you immerse yourself, the more natural and fluent your English will become.
Absolutely.
So keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep having fun with English.
That's the key.
Until next time, happy learning.
Bye for now.